Something I really enjoy about working on these videos is that sometimes out of nowhere I can play a game from a franchise I've always liked, and just like that, my love for it rekindles at full power. One day I simply woke up and then I remembered. The Great Ace Attorney. Oh yeah, I've owned this game for almost a whole year now, maybe I should finally get to play it. And before I realized it, I was already going. I love Ace Attorney. They might have the worst replay value of any franchise, but that first time you get to experience them is something that stays with you. This series is full of so many crazy characters, wonderful stories, lots of twists and turns, as well as great music. Now that I have every single game at the time of this video under my belt, and because my love for the series reignited, it's time I give a final verdict. I'm gonna rank all the games in the franchise, from the ones I enjoyed the least to the ones I love the most, and I'm going all out this time. Not only will I include the 6 mainline entries, I'm also including spin-offs, making for a grand total of 11 games. If you're ready, let's begin. Alright, the 11th and 10th spots on this list can honestly be swapped, since I can say I enjoy them on the same level. Apollo Justice and Dual Destinies. Might as well go in that order. Apollo Justice is a game I wish I liked more. I love its new characters, how it is a soft reboot for the franchise, the music, unsurprisingly, is incredible, but above all, its presentation and atmosphere are second to none. The sprite quality is beyond immaculate. I don't think you'll ever see a DS game with sprites as beautiful and lively as Apollo Justice, and its darker and grim tone make it stand out from the rest of the series. But that's also my main problem. Set tone and atmosphere only have real impact during the first case. I spoke about this years ago, but Turnabout Trump is a fantastic case, perhaps being the best first case in the franchise. It was so grim and dark, so full of twists that hit you at the return. It set up a bar so high, so fucking high that none of the other cases ever managed to rival it. Actually, I don't even think they even reached their toes. Turnabout Corner is a case that just exists. The only thing I truly remember about it was how much I hated the defendant of the case, and I wanted him to go to prison. Turnabout Serenade is infamous as one of the worst cases in the whole series. And yeah, no shit! The main logic of why the accused is being, well, accused, is fundamentally flawed. Everyone acts like an idiot in this case, and it's so slow and boring. Finally, Turnabout Succession is a decent final case that had good moments, a great premise, but ultimately ended up in a whim that didn't give me any satisfaction. I can forgive Apollo Justice because again, it was a soft reboot, so I bet the developers were just finding their footing in new ground. I really wanted them to expand on what was set upon here and make a better game. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because they backpedal hard, and that's what brought us Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. This game is a weird one for me. I remember being so excited when I first played it and really enjoying it, even though some plot twists were already spoiled to me. But as time passed, I come to realize how weak and unfocused this game is. First of all, the backpedaling. Dual Destinies feels insecure because it doesn't expand much from Apollo Justice. It brings back all their characters except Dick fucking Gumshoe, holy shit I miss him so much. The tone is lighter, and even Phoenix Wright suffers from a notable character regression. He's still great by the way, but I wish they had done more with what was set up on the prequel with Hobo Phoenix. Apollo is back! That's cool, but they also tried to reboot him by giving him a second backstory. And to make matters worse, there's now a third protagonist. I mean, she's great, I like Athena, and she also brings some cool gimmicks unique to her. But now you have to make 3 different characters share the spotlight in the span of 5 cases. Well, 6 if you buy the DLC. There's also the matter of the Dark Age of Law, a period of time where both lawyers and prosecutors use whatever means necessary in order to win a case. A concept that is showing your face so often, but you rarely get to see it in action. You have Gasp and Payne, who is just a bit more asshole-ish than his older brother. And he's also the tutorial. There's also this guy named Aristotle Means, who constantly says, "The end justifies the means, the end justifies the means, the end justifies the means." And yeah, that's it. Every other case plays as your standard Ace Attorney episode, so this whole concept of the Dark Age of Law is just there to make the game sound darker than it actually is. Apollo Justice did a far better job with that topic. Even the great Ace Attorney did a better job at that, but I'm already getting ahead of myself. Overall, Dual Destinies is nothing to write home about. The main plotline is fine, but the game feels all over the place. If anything though, I fucking love Simon Blackwell, the prosecutor of this game. Easy top 3 rival in the entire series for me. Detective Wright was also great, except for that, well, you know. What else? Oh yeah! The DLC case! So fucking good! It was stupid having to defend an orca in Kurt, but it was so fun. I even recall crying at the end because of how touching it was. In conclusion, while there is no Ace Attorney game that I dislike, Apollo Justice and Dual Destinies are the weakest games in the series for me. So I give them the 11th and 10th spot on this ranking. Alright then, pop question. Who's one of my favorite Ace Attorney characters, Edgeworth? Now pretend that you're surprised at that answer. When I was just getting into the series and I found out that Edgeworth had his own games, I wanted to jump into that like a rat on a KFC fryer. I ordered a copy from eBay along with Trials and Tribulations, and that fucker took 4 months to arrive. When I eventually got into Investigations, I remember really liking it. It was a good spin-off that kept the charm of the main series intact while still having its own unique ideas and identity. Edgeworth simply makes for a great protagonist. But throughout the years I come to realize something. This game is forgettable, like, I really don't remember anything about it. I tried to return to the wiki and read the case summaries, but my memory barely jogs. The Yatagarasu conspiracy? The fuck is that? I tried to recall moments that had me jumping in excitement, but I really can't recall anything. And that's a major problem. Investigations 1 is just there, really. The most memorable moments for me were that case that takes place before Trials and Tribulations, and this woman right here that is infamous for having the worst voice clip in the whole series. Objection! There's nothing bad about the game, except for Detective Bath, since that's his name. But when you compare it to the rest of the series, Investigations 1 simply exists. But still, I still believe this game is such worth your time. Justice for All is the game that claims the 8th spot on this list, and if you played this game, you probably already know what I'm about to say. This game is a roller coaster of quality. The first case, The Lost Turnabout, is forgettable and it doesn't compare to the first case of the prequel. Reunion and Turnabout is honestly really solid. It introduces so many new important characters like Pearl Fay and Franziska von Karma, and the overall plot was enjoyable. But then you have Big Top Turnabout. Ask any long-time Ace Attorney fan what's the worst case in the franchise, and they'll most likely answer with Big Top. Personally, I don't hate it, believe it or not, but yeah, it's pretty mediocre overall. And finally you have Farewell My Turnabout. Objectively, no room for discussion, no question about it, my DMs are closed, one of the greatest cases in all of Ace Attorney. A chapter that makes players experience true anxiety, fear, tension, and also makes them reflect on their actions and the series' main themes. Simply marvelous. If there's a reason you should never skip Justice for All, is this case alone. But still, it takes a while to get there, and that road is not exactly pleasant, maybe except for the second case, but yeah, I think you get the idea. Also, I want to add, Justice for All has, in my opinion, the worst soundtrack in the whole series. I can only remember 2 songs that I like, and the other 2 are of course the Objection and Pursuit themes, which just plain suck. They're weak, they're boring, and they fail at hyping me up. While Farewell My Turnabout is a peak in the franchise, Justice for All still earns the 8th spot on the list. Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright. This game is as charming as it is unique. What I like the most is that gameplay-wise, both franchises represented here got done justice and none felt lesser than the other. I especially like the setting because Ace Attorney is a more down-to-earth franchise, you could say, if you ignore channeling spirits or kids firing Gatling guns inside a courtroom. So the more medieval fantasy setting was a great way to make the game feel more fresh even in the gameplay. It was so cool to take part in trials that didn't have the technology and logic they usually have. You had to adapt your mentality to the rules of this world, and you know what else? I also really enjoyed the Professor Layton stuff. This was technically my first exposure to the series, and I liked this game to the point where I went on to play Curious Village and... yep, that's about it. It's so bizarre, I haven't gone to try more of the Professor Layton franchise despite having a lot of fun. Now that's a real puzzle. I should change that sometime in the future. I think my only complaint about this game is that the story's not very memorable. Aside from a few moments like Phoenix suffering from PTSD, claiming his only crime was making bread too good to eat, I really don't remember much about it. When I think about this game, I recall how much I like the setting, the main characters, the music, the puzzles, and the whole concept of magic. But the story's always the main thing I can never seem to remember properly, and that's really important in an Ace Attorney game, how it made me feel. But hey, I guess that means this game is the one with the best replay value in the whole series, for whatever that's worth. Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright lands the 7th spot on this list. When I got into the Ace Attorney series around 2015, I remember so many people telling me, "Ooh, wait till you get to Trials and Tribulations! It's subjectively the best in the franchise!" But as you can see now, I don't think it is. But don't misunderstand, this game is great! What sticks out to me the most is the overall story. Dahlia Hawthorne. She's a despicable, irredeemable woman that I can totally fix. She is a fantastic villain. Every case, every moment, every plot twist revolving around her is something I will never forget. Trials and Tribulations was a fantastic way to finish the original trilogy, and it was so cool seeing all these characters return for one last trial that ended with a bang. Quite literally. And while it still has cases that many consider meh, the main plot revolving around Dahlia is simply a marvel to experience. And really, there's not much I can add without going into heavy spoilers. Trials and Tribulations is a great game that gains the 6th spot on this list. I have the feeling the next game is going to be the most controversial pick on this list, but that's part of the fun with these videos. Ace Attorney, Spirit of Justice. Ever since its release, I've heard a bunch of mixed comments, either you like it or you hate it. So if you haven't noticed already, I really like this game! Just like Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright, Spirit of Justice sets itself apart with a unique setting that delivers a new variety of colorful characters and fun gameplay gimmicks. And all the cases were incredibly solid for me. I remember getting tense at times because of how high the stakes are right from the get-go, but that's what made me like them so much. I especially have to mention the 4th case, Turnabout Storyteller, because of how much I enjoyed it. And not because Clown Girl is now an internet sensation. I get the appeal too. No, but because this case is filler, it has nothing to do with the overall narrative, but it's really damn fun. Especially because Simon Blackwell is your assistant in this case. Oh, the part where he grabs Athena and gives her a pep talk? So good. One of my favorite moments in the whole franchise. Another thing I really enjoyed about Spirit of Justice is that it gave Apollo a 3rd fucking backstory, but this time it's like they actually care to give proper development and closure to the character, because Apollo doesn't feel like a backseat character anymore. You can tell most of his story was built with him in mind, and I like the way it ended. It made those emotional moments and achievements way more genuine. I think the lowest points for me were the soundtrack, which it's not bad, but it's super forgettable. And the prosecutor Nahyuta Samadhi. He's boring, I don't care about him, and when you get to understand his character, it's already a bit too late. Regardless, Spirit of Justice is a game that, surprisingly, I still remember quite well. Nothing about it pissed me off, it finally gave Apollo the justice he deserved, and I had nothing short of a great time. That's why it gets the 5th place. Now we're entering the Immaculate 4 territory. I came up with that name on the fly. But really, these final games are so perfect for me that you can almost arrange them in any order you want. But just for the sake of it, I'm still gonna rank them. In 4th place we have the great Ace Attorney 1, Adventures. It's crazy to think it took this game 6 years to get localized. Then it took me a whole extra year to finally get to play it, but when I finally did it I thought, I can't believe it took me this long to experience this masterpiece. Great Ace Attorney has a very unique identity that set it apart from the rest of the series. 19th century London opened way for fresh ideas and memorable cases. I like that there was no modern technology like in Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright. So you have to think outside of the box and expose the truth through different means. Like the first case, for example. This isn't a big spoiler, but I still wanted to mention it. You're being accused of killing someone with a gun. Normally, ballistic markings would have proven your innocence, but since technology is not quite there yet, you have to prove how you couldn't have possibly shot the victim. And that was so cool and it felt so fresh. And not only that, Great Ace Attorney excels in literally every department. The story? Phenomenal, it had me losing my shit at every turn. Characters? Whether we talk about how they're written or how they're designed, they get a perfect score. The music? When this starts to play, I just go... I'm convinced that the reason I love the Great Ace Attorney so much is because this game made me feel the same way I did when I first got into the series. With a completely new setting and cast of characters, it felt refreshing, even magical. But the game also continued to build up more and more, and it delivered in every department. And somehow, someway, they managed to top that off. But that will have to wait a bit more, so in the meantime, the Great Ace Attorney 1 keeps a solid 4th spot on this list. It's funny how with so many long-running franchises, there's always a ton of options for newcomers to start with. Like if you ask me about Yakuza, I'll end up making a 30-minute long video where I tell you, oh yeah, there's Kiwami and Zero, but 3 is better to see how the gameplay evolves. Don't forget your JRPG spin-off, or you can start with the detective games separated from the main continuity. But with Ace Attorney, I can simply tell you, the first game. Let's be real, as objectively the best game to start with in the series, it has the first game bias. Players who just jump into it are guaranteed to get excited over the simplest of contradictions. But that's a really good thing! This game really knows how to hook you up! The moment where I shouted my first OBJECTION! And said theme started to play in the background, I knew I was in for something special. Solving mysteries, finding contradictions, pursuing culprits, and seeing them break down. I never thought I could get this excited over a visual novel, but the first game proved me wrong. Now, let's remove the first game bias, and Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright is still a great game. The first turnabout, while simple, is the perfect tutorial level that shows players how exciting it is to think outside of the box, leaving an impact that lasts through all the games. Turnabout Sisters is an emotional case that feels very personal in terms of the narrative, only held back by its kinda lackluster ending. Turnabout Samurai may be the weakest one, but I still think it's really fun and charming. But then comes Turnabout Goodbyes, constantly shooting you with surprises, plot twists and unforgettable moments. And finally we have Rise from the Ashes, formerly my favorite case in the entire series. It may be excessively long, but damn it, I will never forget the barrage of emotions I felt playing this case. Simply amoral, it will keep me up all night just to continue playing it. All in all, Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright will forever have an inherent advantage thanks to being the first game of the series many will play. But that doesn't take away how great it is at keeping you hooked, and how it still delivers cases and emotions that guarantees you'll remember them for a very long time. Ace Attorney Investigations 2 isn't just one of the best games in the series, it's an improvement in every aspect to its predecessor, and it's evidence of how passionate fans are about this franchise. I mean, gameplay-wise, Investigations 2 is not too different from its predecessor, aside from adding fucking logic but with chess as a mechanic. But since Investigations 1 gameplay was already great, there wasn't much need to improve on anything. What did change, however, is the story. And this one is so fucking good! Every case has real weight to it, and I'm especially fond of how every chapter matters in the plot and how the characters grow as a result of it. That's my favorite part! They went all out with the characters! Sebastian the Best, Ray Shields, Justin Courtney, fucking Gregory Edgeworth! But the one thing I'll never forget is how this game elevated Miles as one of my favorite video game characters. His plot of finding meaning behind his job as a prosecutor, or choosing a new path as a lawyer, is something I haven't forgotten ever since I beat this game. The music, the cases, the graphics, everything is beyond measure! And as I said earlier, Investigations 2 is also a game that proves how much fans care about this franchise. At the time of this video, this is the only Ace Attorney game that hasn't been localized. Yet, the fan translation is so crazy good, so full of love that it's easy to confuse it with an official one by Capcom. It's sad that there's still no legit means to play this game outside of Japan, but if you ever want to give it a shot, get the fan translation so you can see why Investigations 2 is a pinnacle in the Ace Attorney series. Here we are at the final game. It was so hard to choose between this or Investigations 2, and sure, there is some recency bias here. This video game is the last one I had to play in the entire franchise, but after thinking it carefully, there's no doubt in my mind that the greatest, bestest, perfect, holy shit Ace Attorney 2 result is the best game in the series! Same case as Investigations 2, there's no real difference with its predecessor gameplay-wise. Actually, this one recycles even more music than any other title. But that doesn't matter because it's still one of the best soundtracks in the franchise. Just listening to it had me like... This game also does more justice to its number 2, because it carries even more elements from the previous game, making it mandatory to play the first entry to get the full picture of this one. I know it's asking a lot of the player, beating both games took me 70 hours! That's more than your average JRPG, but I don't regret it at all. The great Ace Attorney knows how to use its setup, build more mysteries as it progresses, and it delivers in every department you can imagine. It has some of the best characters, story, music, visuals, and at every second, it had me feeling something. There may come a time where I'll start forgetting the little details or the logic behind how many cases were solved, but what will always stay with me is what I felt. All the laughs, all the shocking moments, all the screaming and all the tears I shed. When I beat the game, I couldn't stop crying, not just because it was emotional and all of that, but because I was genuinely saddened that it had to end. The great Ace Attorney left such an impact on me that even when the recency bias goes away, I have no doubt in my mind that this will remain for me the best Ace Attorney game in the entire franchise. I can't do this series enough justice. I tried to keep this video as spoilerless as possible, because if I manage to get more people into the series, I wanted to experience those games as blind as possible. When you hear there are games where you play as a lawyer and defend people in court, it might not sound too exciting on paper, but when you hear your first objection, there's no turning back. You'll find a franchise so full of love, charm, and genuine moments, where even the worst game, it's still good in its own right. Believe me when I tell you, it's totally worth it. So, in the meantime, veterans, if there's a different order you will put the games or something you disagree with, let me know in the comments. As for newcomers, let me know how your experience has been going so far, because again, you won't regret getting into the Ace Attorney franchise. And remember, thank you so much for your time, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I appreciate any support you can give to this channel. Have a wonderful day, and take care! I'll see you next time!